I recently discussed the China deal. I discussed the FOMC meeting, and because of what has been going on in this area over the past 48 hours or so, I actually want to quickly review them in this video to kind of emphasize. This is how the daily now appears. It goes without saying that we also have the hourly over here. However, this is the weekly. It's encouraging to see that the weekly is still incredibly green. Now this is my primary area of interest. I don't want to consider the near future. I don't want to reflect on the past 24 hours. I don't want to bother about the appearance of this. My attention is mostly on the events of the past 7 to 14 days. Having said that, let's quickly review the top 100's performance during the past week. As a result, we are currently seeing many of these antique coins increase by double digits, some by more than 50%. Once more, these are the top 100. It is really more difficult to shift the top 100 because they have a lot more liquidity and a much bigger market cap value associated with them. Therefore, if these are beginning to move in double digits, then those that are not in the top 100 are also moving dramatically. In fact, we could observe that within a week. Rewinding to the previous week, let's examine some of these top 100, top 300, top 400, and top 500. I just want to show you guys by diving into the top 100 roughly, that a number of the top 100s in the past week have moved up 60 plus, 50 plus, 40 plus, and 30%, with many of them being double digits. Additionally, let's look at the top 1,000 even if we look at, say, the top 500. A few of these have increased considerably. Clearly, there is a big market capitalization differential here, which makes it much simpler to shift some of these. Furthermore, many of these are merely illiquid meme coins. We're beginning to see some good growth in the top 500 as well. However, we're not at the stage where everything is simply going completely out of control. We're all thrilled and everything looks great. Although we haven't reached it yet, we are starting the process. I will discuss that as well. This is the current state of the market as a whole. At 108K, Bitcoin is still trading close around 110K, 3.44 trillion in market capitalization. Ethereum is at 2.7K, nearly 2.8K. XRP is roughly $2.25. Here, we're still witnessing some good sell-offs. There hasn't been anything particularly noteworthy in the market during the past day, but as I mentioned before, there have been some decent increases over the past 7 days. The altcoin season index currently stands at about 29 out of 100. However, it will be quite exciting if we reach the altcoin season index area, which is currently between 75 and 100 on this index chart. Again, the old coin season index was glowing green at the time, but we don't actually have the look from December or even January. Overall, we're beginning to see a lot of the red in the last 90 days in terms of the top 100, but we still want to see that again. In fact, a lot of this is beginning to shift, once more in the direction of the green area, which is excellent to behold. It indicates that the market is beginning to show some rather significant bounces as well as a recovery. And aside from this, let's really look at some of the charts and some blogs that I did write. First, as I mentioned in this piece just the other day, I've been making it plain on my YouTube channel for the past several weeks that June is going to be a big month for cryptocurrency. I made it clear that the alt season would begin at the end of this month, through the start of July. While many are sidelined or just not paying attention, we are beginning to see certain ancient currencies like Axelor surge 50% or more today alone. These are just the early indications. Additionally, for instance, if we do return here and visit Axelor is currently down a little, but over the last 7 days it has increased by 45 or about 46%. We went from a low of 30 cents to more over 62 cents, and it was up. Thus, it made a huge leap in a very short period of time. This is due to the fact that old coins are beginning to receive a little more attention, and the volume of some old coins is also beginning to increase. Although we haven't reached the point where we can declare that the old season is over, we are coming extremely close. The supremacy of Bitcoin is now the major issue. This is how the Bitcoin domination daily chart currently shows us. Here we are striking a pleasant little resistance area. This pattern of higher lows is something I would still like to see. Naturally, we then want to remove these recent low points from, say, May. This is comparable to mid-May. Our goal is to overcome this. This would represent a 60% loss, or nearly 2%. Right now, that is a decrease on this chart. And while this may not seem like much, it would represent a 3.45% decrease from where we are presently. Even in November, when everything was going nuts, you have to keep in mind that the overall decrease was roughly 11.32%, so it is a significant drop for old coins. About 5.2% was the initial decline that made it possible for many old coins to actually, push higher. Therefore, 3.45% would be noteworthy to begin with. If we lose this level, I do believe that we will drop a big amount, roughly 6%, to retest the following level. However, all we need is proof that Bitcoin's supremacy has been formally surpassed, verifying that alt season will occur. When we consider it, it is clear that we are concentrating on many of the vintage coins that I discuss on my channel. For instance, I've been talking about XRP, HBR, XLM, and similar topics. Regarding HBAR, for instance, HBR is quite coiled up here, isn't it? We are simply consolidating while trading sideways in a downward trend. XRP is no different, is it? We want this to hold because, we do have a higher low here. However, we are only trading in this upswing chop. Are you guys reminded of anything by this? However, if it doesn't, let's zoom out completely on the weekly so you can understand what I mean when I say uptrend chop. To get to where we are now, we had a lot of upward chops throughout 2022. For instance, this is the first upward chop we experienced, correct? We then broke to the upside after learning that XRP is not a security. Once more, we're chopping. In fact, this one started as a downtrend chop and progressed to a tiny uptrend chop before the major breakout. Mostly, though, it's just consolidation, and we are doing precisely that in that pleasant upswing chop at the moment. And all we're waiting for is a significant upturn in this situation. Perhaps we will chop a bit more. However, I continue to anticipate that the old coin market will mostly awaken by the end of this month. Naturally, I will be closely monitoring XRP over that period. However, we must also closely monitor equities outside of XRP because they are currently beginning to rise somewhat. For instance, the S&P 500 is going to be the major one, isn't it? We're really close to setting a new record high. We are not approximately as much as at 2.03%, equities are on the verge of reaching a new all-time high. That will provide a lot of momentum for cryptocurrency to catch up and take off. Now, as you can see, we're going all the way back here to about the beginning of June, so we might chop a little bit more before we get there. It took place between June 3rd or June 2nd and June 11th, and it was a total of around a 3% run-up. Although equities do appear to be doing well so far, this could be a bit more of a wait. Furthermore, we are aware that on the 9th, the United States and China held trade negotiations in London. I mentioned this, and I won't say it again because I did outline it in case you folks want to watch the other video and pay close attention. This is going to be one of the biggest market catalysts that we have ahead of us, I mentioned. We have now received a significant update. Actually, from Howard Lutnick. There will be a lot of new trade agreements, according to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.